What is up, guys? Welcome back to the JP and Trav show on the JP and Trav YouTube channel. As always, it's your host with the most, JP. To my right, I have my esteemed co-host, brother and friend, better known as defensive coordinator, Trav. Trav, hey, how you feeling, bro? What you doing?
Man, I'm good. I'm kind of tired of this defensive coordinator tag, though. I would like to give it to somebody else.
Hmm.
I know I'm here in the interim, but am ready to pass the reins to somebody. So I know that's the hottest topic on everybody's mind. Um, you know, is it a win, not an if? Contingency plans. Is it just delusion to think that anybody would even come from Ohio State to Oklahoma? All valid concerns right now, questions, things we're hearing. I mean, I heard it on radio all day from the text line, and then obviously, I'm sure the chat will be heavy in it today. Already got 350 people hopping in, so we start these. We schedule them to start 5 minutes late. Just I don't know for whatever reason, but JP had to put the daughter to bed and all that. But we're here, we're live. We know Kirby's talking trash on Twitter, so he'll be talking trash in the comments soon. But yeah, I'm ready for a Jim Knowles announcement, man. This feels like Dominic Williams night all over again, and need if it pops during the pod, that'll be our second live announcement on air. But I got Pete Thamel's notifications turned on. I could be getting my hopes up for nothing, but it wouldn't be the first time that I've done that. So, how are you doing, brother?
Man, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It's good to be back. Sorry we took a hiatus last week. Trav got once in a lifetime tickets to the Thunder Cavs game, and that's a hot ticket. 10 years ago, I guess it would have been a hot ticket as well. But 5 years ago, it was
Yeah.
you know anybody wanted to go. So you get two of the top teams in the NBA. I was like, bro, you got to go, and I was gonna pull it solo. And then, as I know many of you on Twitter saw, I had three games that night. My varsity game was a doozy, and there was a fight I had to break up. It was very intense. Loudmouth. My team was down 23 points, and then they came all the way back and had a SC top 10 worthy, three-quarter courts game-winning shot from one of our guards, and it was pandemonium. And then we had some extracurriculars because of the other fans were upset with the refs and all that. And so I was having to deal as the AD with all of that. And it was literally around the time that the show was supposed to start, so I had to call it off, unfortunately. But we back here this week, and as Trav said, there's so much smoke that has seemed to turn into almost a full fledged fire at this point with Jim Knowles, and so we'll see what happens. Obviously, the national championship game is done. Things have been really quiet. He gave an answer, same answer really that Zach Alley gave. If you want to look back at it, don't just focus on beating Notre Dame, winning national championship. He didn't say no, whatever, and it's interesting. There's a lot of Sooners fans that think he's not coming by. Look, I think he has every reason to. He did what he needed to do. He has Oklahoma ties, and it's not like Oklahoma can't pay him. The same thing Ohio State was.
Right. Well, and that's the question, right? As everybody says, you know, why would somebody leave Ohio State to go to Oklahoma, especially not just this isn't any old Oklahoma and this isn't any old Ohio State. This is a
Yeah,
situation where Ohio State just won a national championship, right? Oklahoma has a head coach that's going to enter next season on the hot seat, right? So, a lot of people are like, man, why would you leave then? But, you look at it and you say, man, his fiance lives here. Believe she's got a pretty good basketball playing son that plays at Weatherford, so that would be his stepson. I believe they're set to get married next year. I have not got my invite yet, so I'm not sure. Haven't got my save the date, but um, there are a lot of reasons, man. He's going to be turning 60 in a couple months, and when you're at a place like Ohio State and you have Chip Kelly and Ryan Day as your head coach and offensive coordinator, like it's only you on the DC side.
Yeah.
Like it is your workload. And that's great. That's fine. Won a national title. He gets compensated handsomely for it. But, you know, with this fiance, getting married, stepkids, whatnot, like if he's the DC, under Brent Venables, you've got a defensive head coach. You've got somebody else that probably wants to take some of the workload. You've got other guys like Brandon Hall that's been a DC before, that knows some stuff. Like I'm not saying that you know Jim Knowles wants to come here just to collect a check and only go to home games, but at the same time, it's just a different job when you're under Brent Venables as defensive coordinator than it is when you're under Ryan Day as a defensive coordinator. So I think there's a lot to look at. I think this is a lot different than what your Zach Alley stuff is, because Zach Alley wants to be a head coach. He's very young. He wanted to reconnect with Rich Rod. He wants it to be his identity to be his defense. Obviously, Rich Rod is not going to infringe on that at all. Oklahoma will always be one of those places under Brent Venables where when things are going well, Brent Venables is going to get the credit. When things are going poorly, the coordinators are going to get dumped on. We've seen it. So I just think there's a lot of reasons for Jim to come. And yes, I saw OU Insider, who will be going live here shortly, I guess. I guess they moved to Wednesdays. Weird. But
Again?
yeah, I guess they moved back. I started getting some texts about it. But yes, they accidentally had a canned video that a lot of places make. If you all remember, SI Sooners Illustrated, John Hoover and the boys.
Mhm.
If you remember, they reported, I think it was Ryan Chapman. They reported that Dan Lanning was the hire. When everybody was on pins and needles about who the head coach was going to be, Dan Lanning was the hire. Of course, Dan Lanning wasn't the hire. When there are multiple candidates for the job, these media entities, they write canned stories, they're called. And when they, if one gets accidentally posted, they look like idiots.
Yeah.
But like, there's a reason. All these people that have, in media, when the game ends, they've got a story written. It's not like they waited to the game to end and then write the story. It's not like these recruitments, they wait until the kid commits. No, they've already got it written. They've already got it canned. Now, it certainly looks like, for people who think, oh, is it Jim Knowles? Is it not? The fact that OU Insider already has a reaction video filmed, I don't know. I would like to know what other reaction videos they have filmed. Do they have a good one? Do they have a Brandon Hall? Do they have any of those? Because if they don't, it'll be interesting. And I know I say they. I'm a contributor for OU Insider. I probably could just text Brandon or Parker and ask them that. But I don't know. Signs are pointing towards Jim Knoll being imminent. We just got to wait on an announcement. Oh, Kirby's finally here. Nice of you to finally show up. Talk trash on Twitter, but man, you're late to the chat. I see how it is.
Yeah. Kirby, bro, bro, you've been here every week. Calm down. Give us some grace. We had a lot going on, bro. So it is what it is. But anyways, all that to say, yeah, man, I am hopeful that this will all be over. Certainly, we would hope. Obviously, it'd be awesome to have it be over by the end of the show, but by the end of the week. And if it's true, it's true, and if it's not, then I guess let the doomers commence. I don't know, but
well, it's okay. So yeah, Bearded Sooner says sports animal guys are saying it's a no or no go. No, one guy, Mark Rogers, said that he had heard from somebody that it wasn't happening. I think what likely is happening is Jim Knowles' sister sent out, if it's the same things I saw, Jim Knowles' sister sent out convince her to love Columbus. She loves Columbus, all that kind of stuff. you guys need to get familiar with Jim Knowles' sister and her Twitter activity, because that is an OU Twitter match made in heaven or hell. I don't know, but she is talkative on Twitter. It would be a lot of fun. But yeah, I don't think everybody at the Sports Animal feels that way. In fact, I know not everybody at the Sports Animal feels that way. I know Mark Rogers said it, but there are people. Dusty Dvorak thinks it's happening. I think Bob came on our station, talked about it a little bit. Like, there are people on the Ohio State side that I talk to that say, yeah, everybody knows over here already. But yeah, so I don't know. Like, the only way it wouldn't happen is if negotiations break down and Brent's like, hey, I'm not going to give you the whole defense or this, that, or the other. Like, but I don't know. I think Brent at this point needs to be able to say, hey, you're coming off a national championship, number one defense in America. He was number two defense in America last year, number one defense in America this year. He had Oklahoma State as the number 9 defense in America, and they don't recruit for anything. So if Brent is able to say, hey, look, here are the reins, then I think we're in good shape.
Yeah, I would be beyond ecstatic, because I remember I have a buddy up here who goes to church with me that's a big Ohio State fan. Obviously he's excited that they won a natty and everything. And I remember telling him when Ohio State hired Jim Knowles, and he knew nothing about who Jim Knowles was. And I said, bro, I said, y'all, and I said this, I said, like, y'all are probably going to win a natty while he's there, because you combine the talent that Ohio State is capable of recruiting, as we've seen. Like, they had a number one class by that point, and IL was ramping up, and obviously they had C.J. Stroud, they had whatever. I was like, and nothing to talk about Brian Hartline just being a receiver recruiting god. Just how many guys he's gotten to come up there 5 stars of the likes and everything like that. So I said, man, the offense is what the offense is, and he's able to turn the defense into what he did at Oklahoma State. It's raps. And then, I mean, this is what we saw on Monday night. And like that dude, I remember watching Oklahoma State games. I know, like, we ended up beating Oklahoma State a good amount of years he was there, but, like, man, the different packages, he's so multiple, like Brent is. How hard his players played, just the way he disguised his stuff. I was like, dude, who is their defensive coordinator? Like, this is ridiculous. It was like a chess match between him and Lincoln Riley, at Oklahoma State. And so it's like, man, he goes to Ohio State and does what he did. And obviously, the only difference between Ohio State and Oklahoma, I feel like, in terms of talent, is slim to none. So he could do the same thing here. And this defense is plenty talented itself, and even you could say arguably could potentially be elevated with him being added just between the two of them and as defensive minds. And he could even recruit potentially. The recruiting could even go up, right? Just based off of, hey, this guy just won a national championship as a DC, and he's coming to play for a guy that, or coach for a guy that has won 3 national championships as a defensive coordinator. So they know defense.
Yeah, the combination of the two on defense, I don't think you've had that ever since basically Kirby Smart was under Saban, as far as just 2 defensive minds that know what they're doing, or at least have the credentials. But that's what's interesting is you bring up talent. Ohio State, everybody hears the $20 million number, right? Everybody says Ohio State, man, they paid $20 million for that roster. Of course they won this, that, and the other. Well, like, a lot of that is what OU's going through right now in retention, right? Like, OU had to retain the Bowen brothers. OU had to retain R. Mason Thomas and RSJ and Danny Okoye and David Stone and Jaden Jackson, like, as a freshman All-American. Eli Bowen was a freshman All-American. Like, retention was big. Ohio State pulled a lot of people back from the draft last year, with NIL money. Sure, they get Caleb Downs. Sure, they go out and get Will Howard. Sure, they get Quinshon Judkins. Like they get some talent. There's no doubt about it. But like a lot of those dudes were just retained. Like Ohio State didn't have a massive portal class. Like we're not talking like Ole Miss size portal class. Like they took talented guys whenever, Alabama, the coaching change obviously was like, hey, we'll take them if we can get them. So that being said, this next year, Ohio State loses a ton of those guys. Like they probably lose their entire front seven starters.
Yeah.
Like they'll lose their entire defensive line. They'll lose their middle linebacker. They probably lose a corner, probably lose a safety. I mean, they're Caleb Downs is obviously still going to be there, but like you're going to have a lot of true freshmen playing right there. He always likes older defenses, just like he did at OSU. Remember the Malcolm Rodriguez year? Bunch of old dudes out there running, a bunch of COVID year seniors out there running around. He likes a little bit more experience. Obviously, Ohio State's not going to have that. Like I said, they're losing their entire defensive line, right? So I think when we talk about a time to leave, this is as good a time to leave as any. Hey, national championship, you're going to have people poaching our players because they're national champions. You're going to have people poaching, our coaches, all that kind of stuff. They might have a little championship hangover because, they've accomplished it. But I mean, the personnel that Jim Knowles would lose on defense if he returned to Columbus, or if he stays in Columbus, I should say. Not that he hasn't left yet, obviously, but it's not going to be the same defense next year, personnel wise.
Yeah, 100%. Trav, I also wanted to chat about it. We didn't chat about it last week, and obviously in the time since then, Porter Moser has kind of calmed down some things with 20-point win over South Carolina, a South Carolina team that I believe is on the verge of upsetting top 3 Florida.
Florida just pulled it out by 1 point, 70-69.
Well, 1 point loss, but he gets obviously a much needed win, and then we can maybe go into a little bit of a Q&A time. But what are your thoughts on kind of what's transpired through the last few games? And obviously, we see this finally seemingly good performance to get their first SEC win. But man, it's been rough sledding this first half.
Rough sledding for sure. You let the Texas game get away from you, even though a valiant comeback was there. You need to beat the bad teams in the SEC. This is not some great Texas team. You beat South Carolina just like you were supposed to. You should beat Arkansas this weekend. They haven't won an SEC game yet. They've got Georgia, I believe, tonight. It's like you need to beat those teams, and if you can pick up a win on the road at Arkansas, good. That'll make up for one of your 2 home losses that you suffered, right? Texas and Texas A&M. Oklahoma, as of today, are a 10 seed in bracketology. That's the last I think the last bye is the 10 seed. The road's not going to get easier. You've got Tennessee, you've got Kentucky, you got all that. So I don't know. You're not going to get those wings back. So hopefully they found something in Dayton Forsythe. He's got a lot more minutes now. You've got Muhammad Wagi, as the announcers say. He's been way more physical. His minutes are going up. He's been very good. Unfortunately, Duke Miles has been turning over the ball a lot. He turned the ball over 6 times against Texas. Only had 4 points, 1 assist, and 6 turnovers, including 1 late that really sealed the loss. It's just got to get the kids. I would love to see Dayton Forsythe get more minutes. I'd love to see Kobe Elvis get more minutes. I'd love to see Jeremiah Figures continue to grow. But this is a team that can go get some more wins. You don't want to be reeling Arkansas's first win. I mean, Calipari's having a hell of a time down there. They're ready to run him out of the building. So yeah, you've got to go get a win at Arkansas. I know a couple of OU fans are going to the game because Fayetteville's so close. We at the OU Club of Tulsa, I'm the vice president of the OU Club of Tulsa now. Like we don't get to do stuff with Bedlam anymore because they don't want to do anything with us. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy. We had a 13-year run of doing Bedlam, like a Bedlam run together. They won't do it anymore because they're like Bedlam's dead. It's like not in every sport. Like just chill. They're just petty. So it's going to be an maybe a Arkansas OU type vibe going into the SEC.
Yeah.
I will say, I want to address this real quick before it gets buried in the thread. The update of the offensive line is you lose 3 guys, really, that you brought in from the portal last year that you had hopes for with some, high hopes for with others, Branson Hickman, Michael Tarquin, and Spencer Brown. You bring in, obviously, Simmons, and then you bring in Palenko, Postenko, the Stanford. I don't have his name in front of me, and I have a hard time pronouncing it anyways. But anyways, brought in the Stanford kid that's got more of a depth piece in my opinion and others' opinions. But the offensive line, it's built on continuity and development and chemistry. The left side of the line is going to be much better this year with that continuity. Heath Ozida, I think, is part of the reason that you saw Eugene Brooks get in the portal. I think you're good at center with Troy Everett. He can continue to improve while healthy. Remember, he was coming off a knee last year. When he got healthy, he beat out Branson Hickman, who was the Outland Trophy watch list preseason, #1 center in the portal, and Troy beat him out. So when you talk about Heath Ozida, again, another young kid that's going to get bigger, stronger, understand his position better. Logan Howland doing the same thing. Bigger, stronger, understanding the position better. That left side is going to be good for years to come. On the right side, you've got Fabechi and EPL battling it out. Fabechi, again, another year bigger, another year stronger, right? So EPL there battling for Fabechi. And then at right tackle, you've got Jake Taylor. You've got Jake Sexton, who might want to roll over there. And we'll see if the freshman can compete. But like Sooner Cowboys says, Fasusi and EPL need to start. I will forever say this. Until a kid comes up and shows me that he can play against Dylan Stewart's of the world, Colin Simmons of the world, all this 5-star stuff, this is exactly what people said with Jackson Arnold. He's 5-star. Man, Dylan, man, he's short arming a throw, this, that, and the other. Throw the freshman into the fire. You don't want your blind side of John Mateer, your brand new quarterback, being protected by a true freshman unless he's ready. Let him battle it out, sure. But, just don't hand the guy a job because he dominated some high school camp. He's going to be a star, an absolute star. But the problem is somebody will put Fasusi in, he'll get beat by Colin Simmons or Ant Hill or Dylan Stewart or one of the Michigan edge rushers. They got a million of them. And everybody will say, bust, Bray Walker, he's no good, portal time. Because that's the problem. The expectations put on these freshmen are completely unreasonable. And just because a bunch of On3 content creators love him to death, but just because they say that he's got to start next year, they don't know what our OL room looks like. They don't know, the development. Like, who are they to say who should start and who shouldn't? So I've never looked at a true freshman and said, no matter what, he needs to start at tackle in the SEC. Kelvin Banks, who's a generational talent, like Fasusi, did not play well as a freshman. He's now got reps and he's gotten better for it, but he was playing out of necessity. Absolute necessity. Texas didn't have anybody whenever Sark showed up. That's why they needed the Pancake Factory fund. They didn't have anybody. So that left side will be in fine shape. more development, more continuity. That's what look at all the best offensive lines across the country. Continuity. They all are returning starters. They're
Yeah.
returning a lot of starts. Oklahoma finally got really good, experience last year. Now let them build on that experience now that they've actually been thrown to the fire. Don't just you start Fasusi, bunch of spring transfers happen, and then you realize it was a bad idea to put a true freshman up against a bunch of all-American edge rushers, and then what do? You got rid of the guys that you thought they were going to start, so now you're screwed again, and you're done with the depth again. You're back where you started.
Yeah. I agree 100%. And at the end of the day, like we've talking about at the end of the year, they started to play a lot better. And I think at the end of the day, competition has to be a huge factor. Like Michael just can't walk in and be promised a spot like this. And Bill's not like that anyway. We know that. And so, if he's gonna earn it, he needs to earn it. Like he needs to be clearly better. And if it's gonna be that he is, the best true freshman tackle we've seen since I don't know who, then so be it. But if he doesn't beat out Logan Allen, then that's okay. It's not the end of the world. Like, there's going to be plenty of opportunity for him.
And that's the thing. 5-star freshman is really a 5-star. He'll make his way to start. No. Like, there's such a jump from high school to the SEC. And when you're doing when they make a 5-star, there's a reason there's 30 to 35 of them because that's how many first-round draft picks there are. That's how many NFL teams there are. So you can't just – they're projecting who's going to be a first-round pick. And there are a lot of first-round picks that are coming off the board that play tackle that did not start as true freshmen in the SEC. And to say that, well, if you're a true freshman 5-star, then you should start. And if you're not starting, on a team that hopefully is good, then you're not actually a 5-star. It could be because you like what's in front of you. Who knows? But like on the offensive line, again, continuity, chemistry. If this were a 5-star wide receiver, okay, maybe I could see where you want to get those guys in the lineup, whatnot. But this person is in charge of protecting your quarterback's blind side. Like it's a far more physical position. Like 5-star corner, 5-star wide receiver, even 5-star running backs at times. Like they can flash, but you need reps. He could work his way maybe into the 2 deep. Who knows? Maybe halfway through the year, he's worked his way through injuries and maybe he's starting. But the idea that if you're a 5-star and you're not starting as a freshman in the SEC, then you aren't actually a 5-star is not based in any reality of like how any according to that, then there's really only like 3 or 4 5-stars every year.
Right.
Maybe 6. And that's just not true.
100%.
It's like Jeff Ketchum making up super blue chip.
Super.
You got super 5-star are the ones that are starting immediately. I'll be interested. I'm going to track that actually. Now he's got me thinking about it. I want to look at all the 5-stars from the 2024 class. All of them, all 30 of them, and see if they started.
I'm interested.
It'd be interesting.
All right, guys, let's go ahead and open it up for Q&A. So we're going to let the chat kind of, as we do in the off season, run us. So, man, whatever y'all want to talk about, let's do it. I do, I'm interested to see how spring ball goes. Trav, I actually forgot I need to share something with you offline. But I'm interested to see how spring ball goes for the boys, and I know everybody's back. Second semester videos are out, stuff like that, and people putting work in, and we'll see what it looks like in the spring, man. But Boomer 129 wants us to start a new segment called Mama Jokes. So, what your best your mama joke is that your idea? Is that where you're going with that?
Yeah, I don't know. Hey, Suitor Cowboys, Texas, 5 guys in the top 50. They all better start, or else they're bad evals.
It's true. It's true.
Here's an interesting question. You go ahead.
Man, I mean, it's hard to say. I think based off of this year, you probably still say Javante Barnes based off the year he had. But truth be told, I mean, we have truthfully, truly four guys. I'll say 3.5 because I'm counting Gavin Sawchuk as a half just because we've seen him do it. But last year was so like he was so just out of it. I know he's injured a little bit too, so I 3.5 guys that could be RB1. Like Javante Barnes was last year, and he showed in that game against Ole Miss he can do against high quality SEC competition. Um, Obviously, like I said, the half is Gavin Sawchuk. It just depends on who we see, but like he's shown that potential if he's healthy, you know, to do some nice things. But the interesting piece of this, Travis, is the two freshmen from last year, Xavier Robinson and Taylor Tatum. Taylor Tatum has all the talent in the world, but he had the fumble yips last year. Does that get shored up? I think if that gets shored up and he, you know, obviously changes that habit, and I'm not saying he can't. Obviously, we know that he's a sports star. He's about to play baseball, and so does that give Xavier Robinson a leg up because he's going to be more involved in spring ball than Taylor is? I don't know. It could. But we saw what Xavier Robinson was able to do towards the end of the year as well. Definitely interesting that he didn't get hardly any carries in the bowl game, but that could be here or there. Don't know why that necessarily was, but we saw him against Bama and what he was able to do. And the talent he has, he looks so much better, so much quicker than he was in high school. And I say that to say like he was obviously a little heavier than he is now in high school. You see more explosion and quickness. He seemed to be more of a bruising back coming out of high school, but that narrative is changing a little bit. He was quick. He's not afraid to run over guys, but he can make some guys miss. And he actually was one of the only backs, Travis, that we saw make guys miss. I mean, him and Taylor did, but he just fumbled. But we actually saw Xavier make some guys miss, and things of that nature. So that's a really, really hard question. It truly is. But I'm going to say Javante Barnes just based off of what we saw last year. And he's a senior.
Yeah, I think, without being totally just hey, got to give it to the guy, the seniority in the room, blah, blah, blah. Like, I truly think that Javante Barnes will be named the starter, but it would not surprise me if Xavier Robinson leads the team in rushing next year. Like, I think he's
Yeah.
going to get a lot of opportunity. I think the long-term combo of like Tatum and Robinson is fantastic. You've truly got the the Mixon guy, which obviously he's shorter than Mixon, but highly ranked guy in Tatum. You've got the lower ranked, bigger bodied guy, kind of the thunder and lightning vibe.
Yeah.
Tatum's got the speed to hit home runs. He catches the ball out of the backfield. Even, I mean, Xavier Robinson was catching the ball out of the backfield. I just think that duo is going to be so good. The
Yeah.
question is, are they so good this year? Right. Um, they ran the ball a good amount, at Washington State. A lot of it was quarterback run, though. Do they look to run the ball but protect material a little bit more and use that stable of backs? I don't think Barnes' ceiling is as high as the other twos, but what I know is he runs like if he doesn't get that extra inch, it's going to cost him his life. I mean, he runs so violently that, man, I think you gotta start him and just reward him for that almost. But
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to see a lot of two back sets, with those three for the most part. Obviously, Sawchuk, um, if he's got some daylight to run through, which our offensive line started the year so poorly last year that nobody did. But like if the offensive line can start making some lanes for him, then Sawchuck can hit those home runs. It's just he can't run through trash apparently, or at least he couldn't last year. Maybe he can this year.
I disagree with this take, and here's why. I know the rotations have been weird. I think that he has shown that he would stick with the guy, like when he did with Ramondre, like when he did with Eric Gray, when he has a guy he trusts. I feel like that's the case. I don't know that there was a guy this past year um, that he felt like he really trusted. And Travis, correct me if you think I'm wrong, but like Javante, like nobody can make anybody miss early on. Javante was the best blocker of everybody, but nobody could block. Taylor was putting the ball on the ground. Now, I don't know about Xavier Robinson. I don't know why it took him so long to get on the field. I'm not in the practices. Maybe he wasn't there like mentally in terms of like knowing schemes and everything. Maybe it took him until towards the end of the year. But I feel like there's been precedent to show that DeMarco would stay with the guy. But I know the rotations have seemed weird the last year or so. So I understand.
Yeah.
I understand the thought process, but I disagree.
No, I think it's a very legit gripe. I think it's an odd philosophy to go with the hot hand, but you hear him say it over and over.
Yeah,
Oh, or at least Brent Venables says it on behalf of DeMarco. I mean, you know what? We wanted to go with the hot hand. Really felt like this guy was seeing it well. You know, but as a running back, you need to get into that rhythm. The
you get
problem
touched.
is if you only give, a couple snaps at a time, pull them off or whatever, like especially if you're running like RPO stuff and you just don't get the ball. Like, okay, come on out. Like, man, I didn't get I'm not getting able to hit anybody. I can't see the field. I'm not getting a sense of what the linebackers are doing, any of that. Like, it's just, it's just tough. So I'm not a fan of the hot hand philosophy. Um, but I do understand that some people just have better days. And it's like, man, I don't know what's going on with, Gavin or Javante at times. It's like, throw Tatum in there, see if he can create a spark. And then if he does, how do you then take the ball out of his hands and go back with your starter, right? And I think part of the problem with it last year is they struggled to run the ball so much due to A, the play calling, and B, the offensive line, especially early. They ran the ball well late, ironically, but early it was like, okay, we've got Sawchuck and Barnes. Okay, Sawchuck can't run through trash. There's Barnes is getting a little bit, but it's still through complete trash. The offensive line can't block it up. The play calling inside zone over and over is not working. So it's like, okay, Tatum, let's get him some stuff out of the backfield. Let's try something new. That's working. So it's just there was never a there was never a rhythm to the run game
Yeah,
because of the play calling and the offensive line didn't allow it to get established. Now I
right.
think both of those things are going to be dramatically better next year.
Yeah, they should be based off
Yeah,
of who
could
we
be.
have and who we have. Obviously, quarterback and the OC combination. You would hope open some of those things up. But yeah, I understand that. I understand where it's coming from. I just I don't I'm saying that we have seen DeMarco stick with a guy for the whole year. That's happened before. It just has not happened the last few years.
Yeah, I think it feels like somebody has to separate themselves. And maybe that's Javante.
Yeah,
But
I mean, the nice thing is I believe the running back room. I understand like maybe people don't trust DeMarco right now, but I believe the running back room is in really good shape from a talent perspective. Like Taylor Tatum's number one running back in the country, and he showed pop. He just fumbled a lot. That can be fixed. Xavier Robinson showed plenty of pop. We saw what Javante was when he's healthy, who he is when he's healthy. Even if it's just those three, like those are all three guys you'd look at and say, man, like that's a legit SEC running back room. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, I like the reply here. D, we're going to come back to your question. It's a good one. But talking about the merits that a hot hand philosophy might have, right? Fresh back, adjust to different styles, right? If you think, I've got a speed back coming in, it's like, okay, I'm used to being here, there, being here. And then all of a sudden, boom, he's gone. Like it's health, managing these guys' health, managing the tread on the tires, that all could be arguments for it, but there are certainly plenty of arguments against it. The problem is when you're struggling to get the run game going,
Yeah.
then you can blame the hot hand philosophy. If the run game's going well, then hey, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Hindsight's 2020. But JP, go ahead.
I mean, I think I would agree with D. And he said Keontae Lewis for him. Well, I like both him and Giovanni, to be honest. And I think you look at their tape, man. They're the way that they were able to come out of their breaks pretty quickly, cleanly, good route runners, good speed, and obviously they both have really good production. So I guess you go either way. You go to Keontae, I'll go with Giovanni. And I know a lot of people, like to, and I know Kirby will come up here and say, we're being what is it, group of 5U or whatever, getting guys that we're at smaller schools, but I think the staff was going with production, and obviously they got some Power Five guys like Isaiah from Arkansas, and was it Josiah Martin from Cal, played a little bit, but I know Trav was pounding the table for an offer the year before, and so they got some Power Five guys, but I think that they want to see guys that are dogs, hungry, that maybe are not trying to expect a bunch of bags and just go out there and perform it, and have shown the ability to get open, and have produced at a high level, albeit yes against some lesser competition. But at the end of the day, like you see a guy next to you, like you just gotta get open, and I think that they like their traits and say that they can do it. So that's how I feel. I'll go with Giovanni.
Yeah, Giovanni is who I'm most excited about from just a frame perspective. He looks fantastic. Like
Yeah,
he's what an SEC wide receiver looks like, in my opinion. Big, strong, fast. But honestly, like Josiah Martin a lot. Obviously, I'm biased, like him and his family a lot. But it's also one of those things like he really wants to be at OU. He had better offers from around the country from a financial perspective, decided not to take less money to come to OU because he wants to play there so badly.
yeah,
I think he's a guy that's going to bust his ass in practice, and prep. I don't think he's going to be one of these guys that, and this is going to sound accusatory, and I don't want it to, but we've talked about it. The wide receivers on this pod. I don't think if Josiah Martin is banged up that he's not going to do everything he can to get back on the field. I don't know where people stand on it, but I know there are many people that don't feel that all of our wide receivers last year did everything that they could to get back on the field. And, I think Josiah is gonna bring that hard work and that dedication to that and trying to get on the field as much as possible. So with that, it's him and Giovanni for me. Giovanni, he can block, he can catch, he can run, he can do everything you need to do. So yeah, I like our everybody says, like, we had somebody on KREF today say we got worse at wide receiver in the portal. I'm like, how? Worse than 2024? Because we didn't have Brennan Thompson for a minute, right? But we didn't have Andro, Jaden,
yeah,
Nick, Dion, Jaleel. Like, you think that our portal wide receivers plus Jaden Gibson and Dion Burks next year, you think portal everybody and them next year is somehow worse than like Petaway, Kearney, Raggins, all these guys that were true freshmen? Like, all right. Like, we're going to agree to disagree pretty heavily on that. But what matters is, like, Ben Arbuckle knows how to get his guys the ball. I'm not sure I could say that about our previous offensive coordinators, but we know that Ben Arbuckle can get his dudes the ball because we saw it over and over. And you've got John Mateer throwing to him, who did it over and over. We saw it, right? Michael Hawkins is going to get coached up by Arbuckle, not just no quarterback coach at all. We're going to see multiple quarterbacks next year because we've never not. Like, especially now, as longer seasons and things like that, hopefully, like we will see two quarterbacks, and I think both will be better than what we saw last year.
Yeah. We got to keep the questions coming in.
Daniel talks about, hypothetically worse, but that's the thing. Last year happened. So it's like we can talk about hypotheticals. It's like, okay, Nick Anderson's been injured 2 out of his 3 years in college. His brother was injured a ton, season-ending injuries, right?
Yeah.
Khalil Farouk, season-ending injury. Andrell, never played. Like, there's a certain amount, like, man, they look good on the sideline with their jerseys and sweats and all their NIL earnings around them. But, none of those guys, we don't know what they'd be like coming back. And do you want to pay them big money to come back? And who knows if they play? I don't. Give me some availability. Best ability is availability.
Yeah. Agreed, 100%. Hefty Sooner asked a good question. Can you explain how Seth didn't work out? This is going to trigger Kirby so much. How is this hire such a miss?
Because Brent Venables wanted Dan Mullen to take the job after Levy left. Levy wanted Joe John to get the job because he knew how to call the offense. Brent didn't know what to do, was talking to Seth about it and said, hey, do you want, or what should I do? Blah, 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 looking for some guidance from a guy who'd been a head coach. And Seth convinced him, hey, I can do the job. I was a coordinator here, here, and here. I had success here, here, and here. And it just got behind the 8 ball time-wise because Brent was trying for 2 weeks to get Dan Mullen to take the job, and he did not, obviously. That's why when people were like, there were credible reasons to think that Dan Mullen, it got reported by everybody, that Dan Mullen might take the OU job or that Brent wanted him to. No, he was never going to. I have a really, really good Dan Mullen source. And this person told me, Dan Mullen's not taking the job. Brent has asked him now twice. He's not taking the job. He's waiting for a head coaching job. And where's Dan Mullen right now? UNLV, head coach. Like, he's not going to return to be an OC. So that's obviously Seth hadn't been a coordinator for 8 years, thought he could do it. I think there was some dissent in the Levy tree of Joe John saying, hey, we want to run more, RPO type veer and shoot style, where Seth was like, no, I'm the OC. So either you got to teach me how to call it or we're going to run my stuff. So it was just discombobulated. And that's why I'm really looking forward to Ben Arbuckle, because it is Ben Arbuckle's offense. And he has John Mateer coming with, and he's going to teach Hawkins the offense. Like, Hawkins and Mateer go way back. They used to see each other at training sessions. They're from the same area, right? So, like, they used to play against each other in Texas high school football. So, like, there's a lot of optimism going ahead, and I think we've spilled enough tears over what happened.
Yeah, indeed. more than enough. People want to complain about our tight end additions, but do they know that Ben's offense barely uses tight ends?
So that's a little misleading, just slightly. His offense last year, for sure, didn't use tight ends a lot. The thing is, Ben Arbuckle has said, I will call my offensive system is put your best players in a position to succeed.
Yeah.
His decisions are personnel driven, not scheme driven. So, like Lincoln Riley was like a scheme driven guy. That's why a lot of times when you had bona fide stars on the team, he wouldn't just be like, "Hey, I'm going to that guy," because it was scheme driven. He'd rather outsmart you and get a guy running wide open as opposed to just letting a guy go win and rewarding him for by getting him the ball. So Arbuckle's scheme being personnel driven, if Devon Mitchell pops this year, like I know he can, then he'll use the tight end a heck of a lot more, right? So it's just his offense at Washington State did not use tight ends a bunch, but I think that was due to the personnel less than it was I just don't use tight ends in an air raid scheme. So
yeah,
I do think we need to dramatically improve whatever's going on with the tight end situation.
100%. I mean,
Dramatic.
we have both been on. I know, again, we're resident sunshine pumpers, and Kirby would say you come over to the dark side based on your last rant, but we both have historically been labeled as sunshine pumpers, and from almost day one, both of us have not been sunshine pumped in any capacity about the tight end room or Joe John Finley. Not that we don't like him, but it's just obviously, the tight end room has not been good outside of Braden Willis any of the years he's been here.
Yeah. Well, it's tough, and it's Stogner was open a ton for Dylan, but it's like in an RPO, it's very awkward for tight ends. You're not often looking for them because are they staying in and blocking? Are they running their route? If they're inside, it gets a little difficult. It's just not good for tight ends. And I think this offense will be much better for tight ends. Again, if we have the personnel to make Arbuckle say, "Hey, look, John, I need you to look towards this guy." But like the like I don't know, like Stog was open a bunch, but that was when Dylan was just looking at Stoops the whole time, which is why he set all kinds of personal records and led led the conference in receiving and all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah.
All right. Tennis match the other day. I don't know if they got to their 500. Actually, I do. He said they didn't quite get to their 500. Because I think he was like, "Come to our next match. It's still free." Blah blah blah. You know what? I'm glad that the tennis, OU tennis, their social media, Leah Beasley, all those people that run that kind of stuff, like, are trying to get creative with how they market stuff. You know what I mean? Like how they get fans in the stands. It's a free event indoors on a weekend at noon. They're giving away T-shirts and posters and all that kind of stuff. Guys. I mean, I know that Daniel Akinkumi was there. Like a couple of the players were there, and they're a top 10 team in the country. OU tennis is. So, like, I think they're just trying to do whatever they can to get fans to come out and support the athletes, which I've been to multiple tennis matches at Oklahoma. I prefer the outdoor courts personally, but they're a lot of fun, a lot of fun. So I encourage people to go check out that team and check out Bruno and see, do some scouting yourself. See if you think he'd make a good tight end.
Kirby, leave Mark Andrews alone. Okay.
Yeah, leave type 1 diabetics alone too.
Yeah, for real. That's the type of diabetes you can't control that you get. So
exactly, that's what my mama has. Got you. Well, we got about 5 minutes left. Let's see.
Indeed, Daniel. Indeed.
What Ohio State staff members do you think follow Knowles if he comes here? It would be support people, analysts.
Yeah.
I don't think I mean, I think he's got like a safeties coach that been following in places, but Brandon Hall's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I would expect it to be just defensive analysts that can help with install if they need or something like that. Kind of similar to, like Arbuckle bringing his like assistant quarterback coach with stuff like that. Like anytime a coordinator comes, if there's not, a cleaning house situation, like a head coach or something like that, then they're going to bring analysts with them. Right. So,
Yeah. Any players?
I wouldn't expect any players simply because Ohio State's about to have a lot of money get freed up because of all those expensive players that are off to the NFL. And then, like, I think the rest of their staff's going to remain intact. So, position wise, their position coaches will probably stick around. Trace Ford did say that he would cut off a toe if it meant that he could play for Jim Knowles again.
That says a lot.
So it's very much like players love him, but do players love him enough to leave a national championship situation? Like, unless they have a fiance that lives near Norman, I don't think the players are going to want to jump ship. But yeah, I don't think any players will come. Now there may be some recruits that really recruits that really like Jim Knowles that they're after in like the 2026 class, 2027 class. And they're like, hey, look. And he could maybe say, hey, look, I'm going to be down here with another guy that knows defense. So talk that. But as far as people coming off that national championship team, I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah, Laurinaitis is staying in Columbus. I know that much. I would love to have him because he was huge in that Peyton Pierce recruitment. But yeah, James Laurinaitis is not going anywhere. Neither is Caleb Downs. Boy, you guys going big game hunting. You guys are going big game hunting.
What date does the portal open up again? Brooks George asks.
It's sometime after. Like, I honestly forget the date because I remember when was it Michael Woods that transferred to us after he played the Arkansas spring game? And then we thought, hey, why doesn't he just play in our spring game? Because it hadn't happened yet. Like it was something crazy like that.
Yeah.
But man, y'all killing me. Jeremiah Smith to Norman, Caleb Downs to Norman. Relax. Relax. Let's see. Hefty Sooner. 20 million cap and NIL expected to work. A bit lost on recent cap decisions. Look, it's always changing. It's coming in-house. So the schools will be able to pay these people, but they're going to cap it, I believe, at 20.5 was what I heard, but that's athletic department wide. So how they divvy that out is going to vary dramatically. So for those of you that live in the Tulsa area, again, I'm the vice president of the OU Club of Tulsa. We'll be having an event. We're actually launching a new series of events this year where we bring in a coach, an administrator, whoever, to talk about the program, kind of have a fireside chat, we're calling it. But Toby Baldwin is going to be our first one. He is the associate athletic director over NIL. He is the director of NIL at OU. So he's going to come to Tulsa, and we're going to sit down and chat in front of the OU Club of Tulsa at Baxter's Interurban downtown in late February. And he's going to answer all the questions like that, updates on, whatever, updates on NIL, where he thinks it's going to go. I don't think he'll tell us exactly what we paid for John Mateer, but everything else he'll probably be pretty open about it. So.
Yeah.
Let's
You getting him a haircut too?
I might. Let's see. I was looking for. All right. Yes, I'm gonna get him a haircut. So, I had to find my script. So, got what 3,300 of you in here right now. Um, I've got the Shrine Bowl next week. I will be out next week. But I've got the Shrine Bowl. Team Sports Consulting Group has the Shrine Bowl. Going to be meeting with all 32 NFL teams. Going to be meeting with like all 130 plus Shrine Bowl participants. Ethan Downs being one of them. Already did his assessment. But got with that being said, I'm getting my haircut on Saturday. Right. I've had the same barber for the better part of the last 10 years. Some of you know Easton Woods from my social media. He's been working at Boardroom Styling Lounge at 61st and Yale for a while now. And the fine folks over there are letting me give JP and Trav viewers 20% off their first service of their choice. So they got 46 locations nationwide. Kirby, you can even get that long haircut, that long mane cut. But 20% off service of your choice, 46 locations nationwide. Just use Trav20 and check out Boardroom Styling Lounge on Instagram, Twitter, or Instagram. They're at Boardroom Styling Lounge. Check them out. Valentine's Day right around the corner, fellas. Got to look good for your girl. Don't be going in all mangy, hair over your ears, things like that. Don't do that. Get nice faded up, everything like that. So, anyways, appreciate the folks over at Boardroom Styling Lounge. Again, first time customers, go and get 20% off the service of your choice. Gross.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Coming back to the question, yeah, our new restrictions.
It's tough. It's tough to say what market levels are, right? Like, who's to say what an autograph costs? Who's to say what an appearance costs? You could find fair market value for something, but like what if some donor's like, hey, Arch Manning, your autograph would mean $10 million to me next year. That's how much it's worth to me. That's how much I would pay for it. What's $10 million to Larry Ellison up at Michigan? He's worth like over 100 billion. I mean, so it's tough. It's going to be tough to regulate, but it's it's not going to get any cleaner. I know that much. Everybody talks about guardrails, but you can't put a guardrail on the free market and, right to earn, and NCAA is going to get sued over it. Schools are going to get sued over it. Bless you. It's going to be a bit of a mess, but we're going to be here with you the whole time, updating you. And again, if you live in Tulsa, OU Club of Tulsa, if you want to join, it's super affordable. $35 a year. $35 a whole year to join the OU Club of Tulsa. Got a lot of events. We got a golf tournament coming up, all kinds of stuff. So, anyways, as far as that goes, JP, I'm all done.
Yes, sir. Well, guys, we appreciate y'all. Like you said, he's gonna be at the Shrine Bowl next week. I'll be here. May have a guest. We'll see. But hopefully by next week at this time, we will be chatting about a new defensive coordinator. But until then, y'all stay safe in these X streets and in the YouTube streets and just in your life in general. So we love y'all. We appreciate y'all. Boomer.